are these people?
Speaking of, since they're in power, you've got another thing that you brought
I
with us this evening.
I do have another thing. So obviously being a teacher, this is close to my heart and probably will affect my job. So, but I want people to care about this much about this issue as I do. So, and this is I co-host this show, so I can do that. But no surprise to people, this has been happening for a very long time. But I think definitely since the pandemic, it's just been exacerbated, more so now. But we have a teacher shortage of one of catastrophic proportions.
Hmm.
Did you know that, Reef?
Catastrophic teacher shortage.
Yeah.
Okay. I did know a little, yes. You got it.
There was actually a video clip that I put in, didn't come up. That's fine.
Okay.
Don't need
it. Weird.
You need to move that screen now so I can read.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah. So, all right. So, rural school districts in Texas are switching to 4-day weeks this fall due to lack of staff. Florida is asking veterans with no teaching background to enter classrooms. Arizona is allowing college students to step in and instruct children. The teacher shortage in America has hit crisis levels, and school officials everywhere are scrambling to assure that as students return to classrooms, someone will be there to educate them. I have never seen it this bad, Dad Jumnick, executive director of the School Superintendents Association, said of the teacher shortage. Right now, it's number one on the list of issues that are concerning school districts. Necessity is the mother of invention, and hard-pressed districts are going to have to come up with some solutions. It is hard to know exactly how many U.S. classrooms are short of teachers for the 2022-23 school year. No national database precisely tracks the issue. The state and district level reports have emerged across the country detailing staffing gaps that stretch from the hundreds to the thousands and remain wide open as school winds rapidly to a close.
Ooh. Go ahead.
The Nevada State Education Association estimates that roughly 3,000 teaching jobs remain unfulfilled across the state's 17 school districts as of early August. In a January report, the Illinois Association of Regional School Superintendents found that 88% of school districts statewide were having problems with teacher shortages, while 2,040 teacher openings were either empty or filled with a less than qualified hire. And in the Houston area, the largest 5 school districts all reported that between 200 and 1,000 teaching positions remain open. Colton Jenkins, superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District in Wisconsin, said teachers are so scarce that superintendents across the country have developed a whisper network to alert each other when educators move between states. We're at a point right now where if I have people who want to move to California, I call up and give a reference very quick, he said. And if someone is coming in from another place, say Minnesota, I have superintendent colleagues coming in Minnesota, they call and say, hey, I have teachers coming your way. Why are American schools so short-staffed? Experts point to confluence of confluent. Sorry, I can't read. Conflusion.
Conflusion.
Conflusion of factors, including pandemic-induced teacher exhaustion. Yep. Low pay. Yeah. And some teachers sense that politicians and parents, and sometimes their own school board members, have little respect for their profession amid an escalating educational culture war that has seen many districts and states pass policies and laws restricting what teachers can say about U.S. history, race, racism, gender, and sexual orientation, as well as LGBTQ issues.
Confluence, by the way. FYI.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. The political situation in the United States, combined with legitimate after effects of COVID, has created this shortage, said Ryan Garden, president of the American Federation of Teachers. This shortage is contrived. Stopgap solutions for lack of staff run the gamut from offering teachers better pay to increase the pool of people who qualify as educators to bumping up class sizes. Not a good idea. But class sizes, not a good idea. Pay teachers more. But many of these temporary fixes are likely to harm students by diminishing their ability to learn, predicted Don Etchberry, president of the Nevada State Education Association. Any thoughts so far, Reef?
Um, I mean, it's definitely like this feels like this has been happening in teaching forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that it's continued to like be that way, mainly because of like, one, you're not going to get paid. It's terrible hours, even though you think you're off for the summer, you're not really. Like, you know, you're doing way too much stuff, even at like, even at the like the what you would think would be the easiest like classes to teach and stuff, as far as like age range and stuff, are usually the opposite. Like, you know, but it's definitely, I mean, it's interesting what they're blaming it on, you know,
Well,
but
it's true, but it's not like this is new. They're
no,
acting like this is a new thing. This isn't a thing that's existed within the field forever, but I think obviously with the pandemic, it's just been exacerbated, and teachers, at least for me, have basically was saying, during COVID, and I guess you could say now post-COVID, the way that things were running before wasn't working, and now you're trying to bring back a normal that wasn't working into a new normal that's essentially not working, so teachers are leaving,
yeah,
because of that. And then now they're trying to scrambling, and like, I just feel like only in teaching can you see this kind of disrespect, that you're trying to bring in bodies, you know um like in the guise of, oh, we're going to do this to educate our children. You will not see this in any other profession. So I think it's just, even with this, just the idea, like, and I'll go into this more into the article later, but just having teachers who are not necessarily certified to be, which I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but the idea that, like, teachers have to pay for that licensing,
yeah,
and more often than not, you cannot teach unless you have that certification. So the fact that, like, teachers now are not having to go through that process, like in this such an emergency, quote unquote, I think is a lot selling, I think, to the rest of us who had to do it the way that we were instructed to do, So I think it's just kind of a slap in the face of teachers currently who had to go through these hoops via bureaucracy, and now because we're in an emergency, that they can just let any old body in the classroom who may or may not necessarily be qualified.
yeah,
But anyway, moving on. When you start to double classes, teachers don't have that one-on-one with the students, that personal ability to understand what the student needs, both academically and socially, Etchberry said. Danica Hills, a former school-based therapist and state director of Unite Us, a technology company that focuses on health and social services providers, said this diminishment in the quality of education is coming at the worst possible moment. America's school children are still struggling to recover from the coronavirus pandemic, she says, and the havoc months of online learning wreaked on students' academic progress, social skills, and mental health. We know students of all ages suffered deep declines in academic achievement during the pandemic, and now is the time to course correct those changes, Mills said. Instead, I think and fear we may be facing an even bigger decline. Nevada Clark's County School District, which serves 320,000 students, is one of the many school systems taking a scattershot approach to staff shortages by trying several solutions at once. In hopes of shrinking its roughly 1,300 teacher vacancies, the district has raised a starting teacher salary by $7,000 and is offering $4,000 relocation bonus to new teachers who move out of state for more than 100 miles. In an interview, Superintendent Jesus J. Farr said the district is also granting employees a retention bonus of up to $5,000 for staying in their jobs.
okay,
But with school start in a week, well, now, because this article was published last week, The district is still only 92% staffed, Jar said, and despite around-the-clock efforts from his human resources team, he does not believe the district will close the cap in time. I am still worried, I'm still losing sleep at night, and I'm not going to fill the rest of the 8% of our classes by 2 days ago, Jar
Right.
said. Come Monday, well, come and gone, the
Yeah.
district will be forced to deploy patching measures, Jar said, including pulling administrators from the central office to work as substitutes and combining multiple classes together in large spaces such as auditoriums and gymnasiums. Band-Aid wise, I think they're doing whatever they can, said Jeff Warren, executive director of the Clark County Association of School Administrators. It's a mess. I'll say other words, but I'm going to be nice here.
Right.
Other districts and states are attempting more unorthodox fixes. A new state law in Arizona signed by Governor Doug Ducey last month allows college students to take teaching jobs. A similar law, which took effect in Florida on July 1st, offers K-12 teaching jobs to military veterans who served for at least 4 years. The veterans do not need a bachelor's degree, but must have earned at least 60 college credits while maintaining a grade point average of at least 2.5. 2.5 is a C.
Yeah. Barely. Not even really. Like,
not even. So you're gonna have veterans who may not have a college degree, who do not have any training to teach any children in a classroom.
right. Yep.
Please tell me that makes sense to you.
I mean, it doesn't. Like,
I'm saying this because this is your state.
I know. Look, Florida doesn't know what it's doing. Okay? Like, this isn't Florida's fault. It's just like, I don't understand why to me, there's like 9 other professions you could go to that also don't have like standard, teaching license, you know what I mean? Like, that aren't college educated, whatever, that yes, could do what they're like, like people with childcare backgrounds and or, like sociology and psychology, like any of those things that might be able to deal with children in some way or form. Like, I don't think the military knows what to do, you know what I mean? Like,
right. And for some of them, it's like, some of them might be suffering from PTSD,
yeah, like,
I can't imagine, and if they can manage it, great, but I can't imagine some of them, being in a classroom with 20 plus kids, maybe acting up, and not necessarily having the management skill to kind of wrangle them and kind of get them in line for a lesson. I can't imagine that's not going to work.
No.
So,
I mean, it does seem like a Major Pain like sequel, but otherwise, Major Pain does goes to school. I mean, come on, that's like a very easy, we can do that next week, but anyway, yeah, Andrew Spar. I think I might have met him. Yeah.
Well, president of the Florida Education Association said the need for teachers in the state is dire. You think? His association estimates there are at least 8,000 teacher vacancies this year, up from 5,000 the year before. But Spar does not believe the veterans program is really a solution. Thank you, as it may lead to unqualified individuals entering classrooms.
Yeah.
I think we all appreciate what our military veterans have done for our country in terms of protecting our freedoms both here and abroad, he says. But just because you are in the military does not mean you'll be a great teacher. And in Texas, Mineral Wells Independent School District and Chico Independent School District, officials have switched to a 4-day school week for the upcoming academic year. In both districts, which are small and rural, school leaders said the change is meant to attract and retain teachers amid staffing shortages, the Texas Tribune reported. Neither district responded to a request for comment. That's bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's not because you want teachers to come. Like you're trying to keep the ones you got, basically.
Don't come. That's what they're saying. Like, relax, don't do it. Yeah, I mean, again, it feels like this has been happening forever. You
Yeah.
know, like, I remember like my mother talking about people like they do that all the time, like bring in people who aren't qualified, and like they just bend the rules slightly, because of certain loopholes that have been put in place. That this guy's like nephew who works on the, his uncle works on the board of education, like manages to like get, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy, Colin. I know, because you can't say as much as you would really like to on the kind of politics that happen in a school, but let me tell you, it's kind of ridiculous and
Yeah.
ruins the lives of children
Yeah.
time and time again. But you know, like it's just funny. But yeah, so
It's funny, but it's sad in the worst possible way because ultimately this affects kids.
yeah,
And I think that it just shows, and I've said this on many streams before, but I think it just shows how lacksensical, like our country does not value education at all. And again, this is something I call out Joe Biden for as an educator.
yes.
Like, why aren't you making this a big deal,
Why are we
Joe
taking
Biden?
away free school lunches? Why are we
Right.
taking away like the stuff that we've put in place to make sure that kids aren't in situations where they're having to, do crime just to afford a lunch themselves? Like, when we can just
You
be
know,
handing out basic like nutrition and education should be an easy peasy thing for people to want to fund,
right.
like and you should be able to fund. Teachers should not be making less than like they should be making well above minimum wage.
Yeah.
Like, they should be able to live in the town that they like work in.
Right.
Like that should be a thing that's possible in a standard like 2-bedroom house. Like that should be, it's like between them and the candlestick maker, you can't get more classically appreciated than the teacher itself, and apples aren't cutting it anymore. So, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Joe was like, this country is more cold-hearted than anything in my lifetime, and I'm old. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you're right. And, like the way we treat our children is the way that reflects on society, I think. And just given what we're doing now, I think just shows, how much we don't care about each other, much less care about the least of these, in this case, kids,
yeah,
in our society that have to go to school now necessarily, not necessarily having a teacher or having a teacher that's qualified or having to be in a huge classroom and then not going to get the attention that they need in order to do well.
mm,
So, and that's just some of the issues on top of the other issues that already exist in many schools. Like you may not have heat or air conditioning, or like you might have a school building that's too old to like, or like the facilities are run down or whatever, or yeah, it's just an onslaught
mm-hmm.
of issues. But
There you go.
um
So where do we leave
I
off?
want to skip I'm actually going to skip around a bit
Okay.
because um because I think we kind of get the point, from this.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just going to cut it here
Cool.
because just to kind of keep time, but I think you guys have already heard, I think enough. But I think in what we shared is, I think, more than enough just to kind of say, the state of what education is in America right now, and just um like the lack of care that we have, just within the field. right now. And something I definitely want to add, and I know you and Indy kind of mentioned this, on How Do We Miss That a few weeks ago, where there are teachers in Brookline, Mass, that basically did an illegal strike in order
Yeah.
for them to get the tangibles that they need. And I said this at my I had to do a training for my advocacy group earlier today. And I said, and my boss asked me to kind of speak, regarding my experience, within the organization. And basically what I said, especially to the folks who are new, I basically said, like, teachers have leverage now. Believe it or not, in spite of all the mess that we're seeing among teachers right now, teachers now have leverage. We're in a position now that we're able to demand stuff, for our livelihoods and for our students. So if this is any time for teachers to kind of rise up and kind of make those demands, I think the time is ripe as ever. But I think, again, with a lot of unions, you're not able to strike. And I think there is definitely a lot of fear with teachers, in terms of, oh, if I strike, I can lose my job, and I can lose my benefits, I'll lose my pay, my livelihood, and all that kind of stuff. So I think we can all sympathize with that, because that's definitely a risk. However, at the same time, I think what the teachers in Brookline showed, I didn't mention this there, but I think in reflection, I definitely thought about this now. If there's enough teachers that a school district is willing to fire off the bat,
Yeah.
that's national news. And I'm sure that many school districts do not want that kind of attention to say, oh, we fired a whole roster of teachers because they went on strike for better benefits.
Yeah.
They went on strike for things for our students. I don't think that's going to happen realistically. So, I think in thinking about that, but a lot of that has to do with organization too, because again, like, I do want to preface that, and I'm not advocating for teachers to just strike if your union is illegal or whatever. I'm not promoting that. What I am promoting is the idea that there needs to be organizations that needs to start happening around these issues, so that, with organization, meaning, like, think long-term of what is your goal, and make those mobilizations and those actions happen through that, so that you're able to make that, your demands known, and that school boards will not have a choice but to make those demands for people. And so, so I think, so yeah, again, I'm not promoting just strike, and then I wouldn't even say in many issues like striking is going to be effective. That has to be in part of other things that you do. So, but I think, as I said, teachers, and I would say this just across the board, people have leverage now. We haven't gone shit within the pandemic. We're in the middle of inflation. We haven't had our wages being raised. People are struggling, and, people are trying to figure out what to do,
Yeah.
So this is not just a message for teachers. This is really a message for all of us in terms of the time to organize is now. The time to get together, is now. And I didn't want to say this now, and I'm not going to go into details because, it's not important, but I think, well, basically I'll say, like, there are certain people, prominent people within the space that are going off their popularity and personality to use that as a wedge to divide people, especially on the left, and not focus on the policy, and I think we've been seeing a lot of that as of late, like, that we're fighting over personalities and not necessarily, what are policies that will make lives better for people. And, you know, and I know like in our group chat, we've talked about this, you know, and I mean, the drama, sometimes it can be funny. It can be like, yes, you know, like, but it's not going to get us anywhere, you
No,
know, but
it takes
you know,
people
the
being
idea,
better at dealing with it, which is, you
right.
know, like you have to have pretty emotionally stable individuals.